mean 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Even as these grainy satellite images released today by the Chinese government.
Again, the Malaysian flight too was one shot at China saying knock it off.
Why shoot it down though if it's not hostile?
Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Why the Americans would?
They leave distance annihilated.
This country is very powerful. Far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world. Not even close.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should be his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Let's do this, chat. I hope you are ready. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Chat, we are about to go Super Saiyan. We're about to go Super Saiyan on this bitch, chat. If you're not familiar with Dragon Ball Z, that means we're about to power up to the next level. I know what cold fusion is. I know what they have covered up. And tonight, I'm going to explain it to you. Before we get into all of that, as you saw from the intro video, the war in Iran is in full-on motion. It is happening right now. Now, is it technically a war? Probably not, but let's just call it what it is. And the propaganda has gotten thick. First, it started with AI videos of Tel Aviv getting destroyed, and X had to step in and ban people because they were spreading so many fake AI videos trying to make it seem like Iran was winning the war that X had to step in and demonetize and ban accounts over it. That's how bad the situation got in the last 2 days. After that happened, after those people got banned, and people like Kim.com are sharing these fake videos, scammers and career criminals like Kim.com and other woke right trash, all sharing fake videos, claiming that Iran is winning the war. This blows my mind. So after the fake videos got shut down, were they done? No, of course not. So now they were claiming today that all those like ships and planes you just saw getting destroyed, that was all paint. Those were all decoys that Iran painted into the ground to make it look like they were real craft. And that we're too stupid to be able to distinguish between the difference. And to that I say, do you understand that infrared cameras don't pick up paint like that? They can see the contrast, but they don't see that. Do you understand? I can see the shadows and the parallax while I'm watching the video, so I can tell it's not paint on the ground. Chat, the Iranian propagandists are not sending their best. They are not sending their best. And now after these sad attempts at propaganda have failed, now the propagandists have moved to, well, America's the bad guy. America's the bad guy now. Okay. Maybe we are the bad guy. But do you want to know what? This is specifically for Dave Smith. Because I heard Dave Smith, I think I actually have the clip, say that America is a terrorist state. I actually don't have the clip, weirdly. I thought I did. I heard him say that he thinks that America is the biggest terrorist on the planet. On a Piers Morgan episode, which to me is kind of hilarious. Because one, let me explain, because people got very upset over this. First of all, to claim someone is a terrorist, what is the definition of terrorism? Terrorism is political violence, violence against innocents for the sake of achieving a political goal. There's absolutely no way the United States is leading the world on that definition. And you have to do some incredible stretching of logic to claim that we're intentionally trying to kill innocent people. That's absolutely crazy to me. And because of this ridiculous claim, I'm going to play a Ben Shapiro clip in response because he kind of nailed the response today, and I don't feel like I even have to say anything more than this. This is basically, if you are one of these woke right people that decide Israel is the fault of everything, and you think Dave Smith is the epitome of intellectual discourse, you have been lied to, and you probably willingly were lied to, and you wanted to be lied to. Here you go.
Now, I know that Dave Smith is super duper excited that his name was mentioned here. And he's sitting there shouting at his TV screen in his basement, "Debate me, bro." To which I answer, nah. I don't debate with trolls who claim that America is the biggest terrorist state in the world because that is idiotic. I didn't debate the Lyndon LaRouche followers who sat in Harvard Square carrying anti-war cardboard signs back in the day. And I feel no necessity to debate a completely intellectually dishonest interlocutor who spends his days cribbing Noam Chomsky and then immediately retreats to his pose of ignorant comedian every time he is confronted with a fact. Dave Smith is the kind of fellow who says that Donald Trump should be in jail for life as a war criminal, legitimizes every single scurrilous figure on the internet from Nick Fuentes to Candace Owens, and then demands that everyone treat him as though he is some sort of honest, worthy intellectual opponent. He's not. Now, I know that Dave Smith is super.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what's going on. There is a community of this woke right group that all basically only platforms each other and nobody with any dissenting views ever because they get destroyed in every debate that they ever do with anybody. This includes Dave Smith, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Glenn Greenwald, and a whole bunch of others. Okay? This is just the reality of it. And they peddle misinformation, disinformation, and in some cases, straight up bullshit, including AI videos for the last 2 days. And then they expect that they should be treated as intellectual heavyweights, that they should be given respect. Dave Smith deserves zero respect from anybody. He has absolutely zero relevant experience in anything related to geopolitics. He's a failed comedian that has never told a funny joke in his entire life, and he doesn't understand anything about how geopolitics actually works. He's read a few books by other morons, and he quotes them and thinks that they're geniuses. That doesn't make any of you smart. Not any of you. And the reality is this. The only reason why people like Dave Smith even have a platform at all, why they even exist as commentators, is because America's empire exists to allow it to happen. If Dave Smith existed on any other country in this world, he would not have the freedom of speech that he enjoys on a daily basis. The same exact America that he hates, that he thinks is the worst country in the world, is the same one that feeds his children. It's the only reason he's relevant on this earth. So he should have a little bit more respect for them. And this is why I say, people say, well, Ashton, aren't you disclosing free energy? Aren't you disclosing a major cover-up by the CIA? By the various Department of Defense, Air Force, Department of Energy, of fusion? Yes, I am. Does that mean I hate my government? No, because I don't see things as black and white. Unlike many other people, I'm not on a tribe. My team is America, the country that I grew up in. I wouldn't want anybody else to have teleportation technology. I probably should have said that I was CIA. I made a blunder. I fumbled the bag. The smart play would have been for me to say, come out, say, I'm CIA, I'm whistleblowing, I'm exposing this, because that would have forced the CIA to respond and deny it. I screwed up. I should have done that. But no, the CIA in America has this technology. So it's not that I'm on the side of this. Look at it like this. If you want to have a perspective of my view, if you are a third worlder or one of these woke right people that hates America or a black pillar, my view is this: I'm doing you a favor. I shouldn't be telling you any of this. I shouldn't be exposing any of this. It's harming my own country, my own interests. And it's harming my own potential career, because I got people out there making fake videos about me all the time, making claims up about me. I'm doing you a favor by exposing this. And you want to guess what? The fact that I'm not dead right now, the fact that the CIA has allowed me to keep going and doing what I'm doing right now, that means they're not even afraid of our adversaries knowing. They're not even afraid of our adversaries knowing. They're like, sure, Ashton can tell our adversaries we got teleportation technology. They can tell them how fusion works. We've already got shit better than that. We've already prepared for what to do in those eventualities. So you think, the people out there that think that Iran, a country with the GDP of Houston, Texas, is going to compete with America, who has fusion orbs and teleportation technologies? Little bro, I don't know what you've been smoking, but pass some of that over here. I need some of that. I need to inject some of that into my veins, because that's the good. There was never any chance in any universe, in any reality, in which Iran ever had any hope. Ever had any hope. And I'm seeing people all over Twitter claiming you're going to be proven wrong. Holy crap, guys. This is like Charlie Kirk all over again. This is like Charlie Kirk all over again. The 30-06 can't get through a human neck. This is totally impossible. Guys, you're just giving me free victories. All I have to do is be a normal human being with common sense. Be like, hey, did you ever look up in World War II? They used 30-06 all the time. Maybe there were times when the neck stopped bullets. Oh, yep, turned out it happened all the time. Turns out we're not going to lose to a bunch of goat farmers in the Middle East who have extremely inferior technology. I saw one dude, sorry, we're going to move on from this in a second, but I got to crash out for a minute. I saw one of these streamer third worlders going, the supreme leader, it was all planned for him to die. That was their ultimate play, chat. Their ultimate play was him getting taken out in the first wave. That was going to make them rise up. That was going to make them rise up. They have weapons we haven't seen before. They're going to break those out right after they get totally cornered. Or what they were saying today is that, oh, America's going to run out of ammunition. Iran's producing their ammunition so much cheaper than us that we're going to run out. Whatever drugs these people are on, please share with the rest of the class. Now, let's wrap this up. What are we going to actually do in Iran? I'd say everything is on the table, but we should have learned the lessons we learned from the other conflicts in the Middle East. If we're going to realize that we're not going to be able to create a government of our own liking there, then let's just step away, bro. We can always come back and bomb them into non-existence later on again if we want to. So for the people out there that think we're getting into another forever war like Iraq was and Syria and all that other crap, pretty unlikely. I don't see that happening here because we can just walk away anytime we want, just like we did with Syria and Iraq. Seems to be going fine there. The goal was to eliminate the threat. And that's what's happened. The United States has destroyed all their leadership. We have taken out their Navy, including the ship you saw get sunk on the intro video today. And we took out their Air Force. They have no Air Force whatsoever left anymore. So for all intents and purposes, the fight is over. At this point, it's just a matter of how are you going to clean up the mess? How are you going to prevent another regime from stepping in? Or who do you install and hope that they're not as bad as the last one? I just tell you how it is, guys. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like the takes. And you don't have to like the situation. But you got to realize that the people that have fusion technologies, that have the ability to conduct an operation to disappear an airplane and convince the world that, yeah, just vanish, that's normal. Those people aren't going to lose in a war against a third world Middle Eastern country. There's no chance. Thank you very much for the raid from Woke Societies. Friend of the show, big fan of him. Now let's get into the science, guys. I know that's why you guys are here tonight. What is the secret to cold fusion? I don't like to make you guys wait. Let me jump through. The MH370 video orbs, what you saw in the beginning of this live stream, and I will show here right again now. These videos are everything. These videos are everything. No wonder these videos are radioactive to anybody in the intelligence community. This is so much more than should ever. I can never even think of a situation, even in the future, in which more intelligence could leak from two videos than this right here. Number one, the orbs are not red hot. These orbs are not red hot. They're not even as hot as the engine on the plane. So the big question that people ask is, how can those orbs be doing fusion when we are told that fusion requires temperatures higher than the sun? Higher than the sun. So we should expect, if we're looking at fusion, it should be a white, hot ball of fire. That's what we would think in our heads. And that is wrong. Cold fusion. You've probably heard of the conspiracy that cold fusion was covered up in 1989. Pons and Fleischmann, they did a simple garage experiment. They took palladium rods, metal rods, and they dipped them in heavy water, deuterium, and they let the deuterium soak into the metal rods, into the lattice structure of the metal rods, and then they ran a current through it. So they had a tub of water, metal rod, run a current through it, and they let it sit there. And what they noticed was obvious excess energy. In some cases, rumors of some of the cells boiling. The water was getting so hot, it was boiling. And they were going, there's no way this energy can be coming from what we're inputting here. So where's the energy coming from? They said it must be coming from a fusion process between the hydrogen atoms and the palladium that it's stuck inside of. This is what led to the cold fusion fiasco and controversy. So, if you ask Grok, what is cold fusion? Grok is going to tell you that cold fusion is the idea that you can do fusion at room temperature, that we can get fusion to happen at very cold temperatures, but that's not really what cold fusion is. Cold fusion isn't about doing fusion at lower temperatures. Cold fusion is about realizing that temperature isn't the factor at all, that we're not even going to use a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. That's what cold fusion is actually about. Cold fusion is about realizing that there's another different way to overcome the Coulomb barrier that is not simply dependent upon the idea that we're going to put a bunch of atoms in a box and then heat it up. That's what cold fusion is. And this is super, super, super important, because this means cold fusion doesn't have to be cold. Fusion can happen because we can cause the energy levels of the ions that we want to fuse together. If we simplify the whole process and we say, what is fusion? Two ion atoms that want to repel each other. We want them to come together. Hot fusion says, okay, heat up the area, and then they're going to bounce around, and eventually they'll randomly hit each other. They'll randomly hit each other, and we'll get fusion out of that. That's called stupid fusion. That's called never going to work in your whole damn life. Random chance? No. We want controlled thermonuclear fusion. Keyword being controlled. Instead of just heating up a random box, we are going to say, what is the energy level requirement to maximize the fusion cross section? Oh, it turns out it's about 150 keV for proton boron 11 fusion. Okay, 150 keV. That's what we want. What are we going to do? We're going to make it so that all of our ions, every single freaking one, is all that exact same energy level. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to engineer the fusion process at its base level. And how are we going to actually do that? So how are we going to do the cold fusion like Pons and Fleischmann did? But how are we going to do a more advanced version of that? Any thoughts? I just told you how we're going to do it. How do you make a consistent flow of the same energy level particle? Laser beams. You use laser beams. That is the secret. Now, are you ready to go down the rabbit hole? I hope you're warmed up, chat. Shout out to JK Philly Fan. If you're not a follower of JK Philly Fan, I think you should be one. He's, I guess you could say, the right-hand man of MH370X. Ton of research. And he found our major document of today that we're going to go over here. This one that you see right here on your screen. This document is entitled Spacecraft Applications for Aneutronic Fusion and Directed Energy Conversion. That's the name. By the way, chat, what year is it? No, sorry, it's not 2026. It's Aneutronic Fusion Disclosure 2026. That's what year it is today. Bravo to JK Philly Fan for finding this, because right off the bat, I see George Miley, PhD, University of Illinois. George Miley has been at the center of all of this. If I had to guess, any person that was involved in making the orbs and building the orbs in the MH370 videos, cha-ching! One of the things that I found out about George Miley going back about a year on one of our live streams was that he also helped to figure out how to combine lasers to a single flow. Imagine a bunch of lasers and trying to get them to phase lock into one another. That seems pretty relevant for this idea of getting your ions to merge together seamlessly for fusion. Also, who is this at the bottom of the list here? Whoa, this is not a collaboration that I expected. Harold Sonny White of NASA, now of Casimir, the company Casimir. Now the guy that was on Joe Rogan telling Joe Rogan about free energy microchips. That's Sonny White right there. The one that I've done everything in my power to help make famous. I'm extremely suspicious of all of these people. And if you put me in the room with them, at a bare minimum, I will find out whether or not they know. I'll find out whether or not they know. It won't even take long. I'll just show them the videos and I'll be able to tell if they're lying to me or not. It'll be simple. And somebody just said, boom, femtosecond lasers. Now, maybe I should play the clip here. This was the big secret. Salvatore Pais. Salvatore Pais was the one that was saying this before everybody. Here it is. I think this is the one. Listen closely.
Way to see what the Pais effect is all about is to say it's really the generation of extremely high energy densities that are obtained by the accelerated vibration and or accelerated spin of a non-equilibrium plasma. That means the plasma that's out of equilibrium. You can think of that. They have a term for it called cold plasma. Cold, as in non-thermal plasma, and it really has to do with the electrons of this plasma. That talks to the plasma density very high. The number of these electrons do not observe something called a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. That's what a cold plasma is all about, an out of equilibrium or non-equilibrium plasma. Once you drive that far from equilibrium at a particular vibrational frequency, you can induce extremely high energy densities. Think of it as a steak. You take the meat tenderizer, the big hammer, and you keep on pummeling at the same spot over and over. What do you see eventually? A hole.
Chat. Who was that guy? That was the first interview I ever did with Salvatore Pais. I didn't know anything about physics or electrical engineering at all. And there he is right there saying that we can produce a non-equilibrium cold plasma. This cold plasma is the connection to cold fusion. Because what he's saying when he's saying this cold plasma is he's saying that we are going to produce this plasma without thermal fusion approach. And instead, what we can do from a fusion perspective is instead of just trying to heat things up, we can just try to get the ions to come together naturally. We can try to get them to come together naturally. This is the whole idea of inertial confinement fusion, inertial electrostatic confinement fusion. So there he was, and he says we can produce this with picosecond, attosecond lasers, that the lasers are now available that are energetic enough that this will actually, we can manipulate space-time with this. That the reason why this would be covered up, this cool fusion approach that's not based on temperature at all, is that this technology not just leads to free energy, but it also might literally be gravity manipulation. Might not just be analogous to gravity manipulation. It might literally be gravity manipulation. More to come on that. Let's start to dig into this. So remember in the back of your mind, Salvatore Pais, now, back then he wasn't saying this, but now he's saying he thinks the MH370 videos are real. They confirm his theories. So some of these are simple. Some of this is just the benefits of advanced fusion propulsion. The main one is something called the ISP, which is a measure of efficiency. How much propulsive force do you get out of a certain weight of fuel? And when it comes to fusion, nothing else is close. You get more propulsive thrust out of fusion relative to weight than anything by magnitudes. Why? Because atoms are really tiny and really light. But there's another benefit. Air breathing systems means we can suck in the hydrogen that we need from the external environment. So we don't even have to carry that on board. So the benefits of fusion propulsion are astronomical. So anyone that claims, well, what they wouldn't bother with fusion propulsion because it's not worth it, you can throw that out right away. When you look at the math of fusion propulsion, undeniably the long-term solution. These are very, very generic schematics of what some of these devices might look like. But the reason why I thought they were relevant is because look at this big one here that says radiator. I keep thinking, have you ever had a radiator in your home? The first home I grew up in had a radiators in it to heat it up. And the idea was you pump this hot water through the radiators, and that spreads the heat throughout the house. And in this case, they use the radiator to dissipate the heat. The radiator absorbs the heat and then just dissipates it out. That's what that graphic is showing. That makes me wonder. There are two answers, in my opinion, that I don't know which is the truth for what is this heat signature that we see in these orbs. See this yellow heat signature? What is this green, yellow heat signature we see in those orbs? That is either, in my opinion, the ions that are being kept at a higher temperature, the hot, fast ions, whatever they call them. They're basically being stored in a magnetic bottle, or it could be that's the radiator. There's like a radiator and or capacitor on there that is storing that energy to dissipate it in a controlled fashion. Those are my opinions. If somebody else has better answer, put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Curious to know what you guys think. Okay. Let's see. What did I want to show here? I actually wish, it looks like there was probably something they were saying while they were showing these slides that was explaining. You can see how the ions are moving around here with these green arrows, showing the energy source, starting that right there. You can see nuclear fusion using proton boron 11 or deuterium helium 3 right there. And you can see the ions then move to energy conversion. And then the ions can be used, charged particle deceleration. So how do you do directed energy conversion? You slow down the particles and extract the energy. So the particle is moving at certain speed. You can use the energy and the speed of that particle. If you slow it down, you use that speed. You absorb that energy, that force. So how do these things fly around? How do we do the directed energy conversion? Because people wonder, like, how are we not just boiling steam? This is how. They are particle accelerators, these fusion reactors. They're accelerating the particles faster than the speed of light. They slow down, and we absorb that energy when they're slowing down, and they emit, Cherenkov radiation. They emit X-ray radiation when they do this. And so it gives this extremely distinct look when we look at these fusion reactors, because you're seeing these X-rays beaming out of them. Crazy, right? I can't believe this shit's real, chat. By the way, we're not even close to the Yahtzee moments here. It's going to get insane in a second. Okay, so here's some schematics, blah, blah, blah. Here's where it starts to get kind of interesting. The designs. Aneutronic fusion reactors for space applications will require more aggressive Q performance than those for civil power generation. Whoa. That right there says if we want to get aneutronic fusion going, we have to be better than the people that are trying to make fusion power plants. What this means is that if they've figured out fusion propulsion, then by default, they've figured out civilian fusion power generation. So for the people who are wondering, like, maybe they figured out this aneutronic fusion, but they just can't figure out how to do it for us. That's bullshit. They definitely have. They've solved fusion. They know how to make fusion reactors. They've got them, and they're just not giving it to us. Down here, this is what they would look like. Now, if you want to know more about how this actually functions, you see this charge collector over here? It's basically a series of grids. And as you can see in this middle image, some of the ions continue down the flow, but some of them slip out. And I think these are how they absorb the energy from those ions for directed energy conversion. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted this. The key here, though, is you can see how Lockheed Martin's compact fusion reactor would fit in with this exact design. Why? Because look at these back and forth magnetic fields that you have over here. This is just like your ring system. You have your ring system in your compact fusion reactor, and you create a magnetic mirror in the middle. Okay. I thought, wasn't one of these connected to Edward Teller somewhere here? This is Miley's here. Moyer's. Oh, here's Bussard's right here. Don't worry, we're going to get to that, though. Okay, so here's some more schematics, and this is interesting. So if you want to understand how they absorb the energy on deceleration, look at this right here on this slide. Decelerator. It says modulator. Fusion product ions in a beam are bunched as they pass through evenly spaced grids of alternating potential. So what they do is they have these grids, positive, minus, back and forth all the way along, right? You see that? And so what happens is these ions, they start to get bunched up together. Uh-oh, that's interesting. Because if these ions get bunched up together, they're going to create a potential well wherever those ions are, because now you're going to have a huge amount of positive charge. And what will that do? Well, what is electricity? The number one question. Anybody challenges us to physics debate? First question, what is electricity? Electricity is a separation of positive and minus charge. Why? Because they want to come back together. And until they come back together, something called current forms, like a lightning bolt. So, when we're looking at this right here, what are we looking at right here, chat? You're looking at someone's creating a current system, because you're going to have this cluster of positive charge separated from minus charge. That's called electricity, separation of positive and minus charge. And it even says right here, on each of the grids through which it passes, the ions bunch together and create an electric potential higher than the adjacent grids, which can drive an alternating current signal. Frequency is then set by the grid spacing, which decreases as the bunches give up energy and slow. So as they slow down, they have to make the spacing get narrower and narrower because we're absorbing this energy. So this is a real way that you can do directed energy conversion from a fusion reactor from the ions that are escaping the reactor. Chat, if I'm not already an expert on fusion, I'm certainly well on our way. Chat, we're out here smoking the truth. We're smoking on straight up factual physics, felony physics even. We're injecting the felony physics straight into our veins. Okay, here's some more cool stuff, but I want to get to the dope parts, chat. I want to get to the dope parts. Here's more images if you want to see how it all works. Really dope. Cool, cool, cool. And then they even talk about some fission reactors too. So even the fission reactors use some of the same concepts that the fusion reactors do, but they're not fundamentally the same. Fundamentally, they're different. And right here, this graph, let me remove this for a second, shows you the optimal energy levels for various fusion fuels. Now, where's the optimal level? Right where the peak of the curve hits. So if you want to look on the right, proton boron 11 is the yellow one that you see here. This yellow one over on the right is showing around 150 keVs. Probably a little bit higher, actually. 160, 170 keVs, something like that. Okay. So the idea is you will get the most fusion if your ions are at roughly 170 keVs, wherever that peak is. So that tells you the temperature that you want your ions to be at. So instead of just heating up our ion gas and hoping for the best, we are going to force our ions to be at that particular energy level. And we're going to do it without heating it up. That's the secret to cold fusion or cool fusion. But there's more. I'm going to keep going here. This is the slide right here. This is literally the slide that it all just kind of came together for me. This is it. Full screen. Fusion plasma confinement trade space. Maxwell thermal equilibrium on the left, and you can see you've got your distribution here. And now the problem is the energy level you're trying to achieve is this tiny little cross section where the square hits our curve. And it says, here's some examples. Examples of this would be magnetic confinement like a tokamak, or like laser NIF, like the National Ignition Facility. They're all, this is hot fusion. Basically, the left says hot fusion. The left side of this graph is hot fusion, and the right side of that graph is cool fusion. So what does the right side of the graph say? The right side says non-Maxwellian, non-equilibrium. That's what Salvatore Pais said. Salvatore Pais said non-equilibrium plasmas, also known as a cold plasma. And he said specifically it doesn't obey the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. That's exactly what this is saying. Exactly. But here's the secret. The secret is right there. Look at the distribution. The curve is entirely within the rectangle. The curve is entirely within the rectangle. This is a measure of efficiency. You're saying, hey, for our cross-section, all of the ions are at the appropriate temperature for fusion. All of them are. Every single one's in that cross-section. In yours, in the thermal distribution, there's no way that's ever going to work. At best, like 5% of your ions are ever at fusion temperature in this one on the left. In the one on the right, all the ions are at fusion temperature. It's called a non-equilibrium set. Get this shit just burnt into your memory, chat. It's called a non-equilibrium distribution. And all the fusion reactors, all the public fusion research you're seeing are ignoring it. They're all doing hot fusion just like this. It'll never, ever, ever work. Now, on the non-equilibrium side, look at what it says for examples. Magnetic confinement by field reversed configuration. Holy shitto. Field reverse configuration, that is exactly what Trialpha energy and helium fusion are doing. And this is exactly what we've been exposing. This confirms we were right. FRCs are the secret. There it is, right there. High beta value must be the answer. The reason why you see the non-Maxwellian distribution is because of the high beta. The high beta is what's causing this to happen. This is all linked together. It even shows another example. I think this one is this the polywell? Oh, no. The bottom one is this one down here is the polywell. Inertial electrostatic confinement. And we know what's happening here. They're building a potential well of positive and or minus charge that is naturally drawing things towards it. And that potential well has all the ions in a little bubble, all at fusion temperatures. And they're doing this without just heating up a random box. They're doing this through a very controlled process where the lasers are a very specific energy level, already tuned to the fuel source that they're using. Proton boron 11. Now, this is the part where it really started to send me, chat. Key papers in aneutronic fusion. You know I love a good scientific paper. Love it. And I love me some aneutronic fusion. By the way, this presentation is from 2012 or something, right? Yeah, September 2012. Second paper, Robert Boussard. Some physics considerations of magneto-inertial electrostatic confinement, a new concept for spherical converging fusion flow. That's him talking about his polywell reactor. That's the polywell reactor right there. And then the other one that stuck out to me was this last one, colliding beam fusion reactors. Because I just realized the whole secret to all of this above, right up here. How are they achieving the non-Maxwellian Boltzmann distribution? The non-thermal distribution? Because they're using a laser. They're using a laser to set the energy level. That's how they're doing it. So the answer to creating controlled nuclear fusion isn't just creating a box and heating it up like we're in a tokamak. That's the dumbest shit you could possibly do. It's never going to work. And if it does work, it's going to be super inefficient. They are going straight to the source and building lasers that are just, boom, perfectly hitting one another. And they're not creating a huge ball of fire like the sun. So I said, I want to understand that last scientific paper, because this last scientific paper seems to be the one that's connecting colliding beam fusion reactors from 2003. That's probably how they're doing it right there. Whoever wrote that, they must know how this went down. Let's ask Grok. Chat, if you need another beer or a drink or a doobie, go grab one right now because shit's about to pop off. Here we go. So I wanted to ask first, I had to ask Grok, what is a monoenergetic colliding beam? Because I didn't understand what that meant. Now I do. I just explained it to you, but here you go. So I had to ask Grok first, what does that even mean? And it says, we are minimizing the need because we're going to produce directed energy conversion. So a high temperature thermal plasma. This is the conventional method, as in tokamaks or stellarators, where plasma is heated to an extreme temperature so that particles gain enough random kinetic energy. Keyword, random kinetic energy to overcome repulsion. That's what a high temperature thermal plasma is. A non-thermal plasma, a cold plasma, is a monoenergetic colliding beam. This alternative uses directed beams of particles accelerated to precise, uniform energies and collided head-on. It operates at much lower bulk temperatures because the relative collision energy can be tuned to exploit specific resonances in the fusion cross-section. So, for example, for proton boron 11, this is at roughly around 600 to 700 keV. Sounds like I was wrong, but there you go. This non-thermal, non-equilibrium approach avoids inefficiencies of random collisions and energy losses. How is this not just obvious? One approach is randomness. We're just going to heat things up and hope things fuse together. The other approach says no randomness at all. We're going to heat these ions to the exact temperature needed for fusion, and then we're going to have their frequency hit us. We're going to look at all the frequencies that we can do, and we're going to realize that this certain frequency has a much higher rate of fusion than other ones, a resonance frequency. Like when you're all singing in tune with one another. Right? Here's the other secret to cold fusion. Ready for this? Resonance. There is a paper. What is it called? Resonance cold fusion. Crap, what's it called? The transmission resonance model of cold fusion. True story. When I researched the cold fusion cover-up, I found a whole bunch of documents that had been sent to the experts, were the ones to research whether or not cold fusion was legit. And one of those papers stuck out way more than the rest. And it was this one right here by Robert T. Bush. Cold fusion, the transmission resonance model fits the data on excess heat, predicts optimal trigger points for fusion, and suggests nuclear reactions and scenarios. Boom. This scientific paper basically says the reason why we are seeing fusion is that in palladium deuterium is that there are specific resonance conditions that can be hit that can actually optimize the fusion. This is why in some situations when people were trying to reproduce it, they got minimal results. And in other cases, they had good results because they didn't even know what the triggering mechanism was. They didn't even know why it was working. And this comes out here and says, okay, you've put your water, your heavy water into your palladium rods, and now you're pulsing a current through there. What frequency are you pulsing the current at? You say, well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Well, what if it does matter? What if certain frequencies trigger fusion at much higher rates? And what this paper found is they do. They do. And it's a significant change. In fact, it found that you can increase the probability of fusion significantly through resonance conditions. And right here, there's a graphic showing right there this idea that the hydrogen is locked inside the palladium lattice. And we're going to cause it to vibrate around and quantum tunnel into the other ion and fuse together. So basically, this paper comes out and says, we can achieve fusion not through temperature, but through a resonance condition that can increase the cross-section of fusion. And so this would be a different approach than simply just heating things up. So they've took this resonance condition approach and they've combined it. They've combined it with their cool fusion non-equilibrium plasmas to achieve super high efficient fusion. And this has been kept secret for national security. Let's go back to the grok here. So then I said, how does this connect or relate to the Rosker paper, the one that was in the last source of those slides we were just looking at? In fact, let me switch this view here so it looks better. Here you go. So this was, or how do you say this guy's name? Rostoker, however you can say this guy's name. I'm like, okay, so tell me now the Rostoker paper. I want to understand, is the Rostoker paper talking about resonance conditions and getting lasers to come together? And so it says colliding beams versus thermal plasmas. The slide highlights that fusions can occur in either. Okay, so we already got this part. Where is it? Both emphasize. Oh, sorry. Let's go to this part. The Roscoe paper expands on this by describing a CBFR where energetic ion beams are injected tangentially into a field reverse configuration plasma to drive fusion reactions. What? Okay, chat. Okay, what the hell did I just hear right there? I'm starting to get scared. We're starting to get to the point where now I wouldn't blame the CIA or one of the defense contractors for killing me. At this point, you're kind of derelict in your duties if you don't silence me at this point. I'm just throwing it out there. Chat, again, I have no biases. I'm just telling you the facts and how things are. Hold up. Suddenly, the Rostoker paper is about injecting ion beams. So an ion beam at a certain KeV, injecting it into a field reverse configuration. That's what this is about. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. So when I said that Trialpha Energy and TAE, who's doing field reverse configuration, are over the target on this, I was like more right than even I thought. Whoa. I didn't realize we had a direct connection to George Miley going straight to field reverse configuration like this via Aneutronic. Now I'm thinking there is field reverse configuration going on inside those orbs. That inside those orbs, it is a field reverse configuration. This beam-driven approach maintains non-Maxwellian distribution. So because you use a laser beam, you don't have the thermal situation, and it avoids inefficiencies. It enables classical confinement and diffusion for energy items, which is more stable and efficient. And do you want to know another benefit? Get this. Remember all those Bremslung losses that you have in fusion? Gone. Yes. Just by going non-equilibrium with this, you don't get the losses anymore. It also solves the efficiency problem because all of your ions are at the same energy level. So you don't have to worry about the ions that are not at the perfect energy level anymore. So it's basically like the perfect solution to everything. Solves the inefficiency problems just like that. Both emphasize aneutronic reactions where products are mostly charged particles rather than neutrons. The paper calculates low neutron levels. The paper notes electrostatic confinement cools electrons. Holy shit. The paper notes that the electrostatic confinement actually has a cooling effect on the electron, not the ions, onto the electrons, via an evaporative mechanism, keeping the bulk temperature low while the beam energies are tuned for optimal fusion cross sections. Exactly what I said. This resonates with the slide's low temperature beam method, reducing energy losses from Bremslung radiation, because again, the thermal plasmas need higher temperatures. You're going to have way more losses. Miley and Rostocker collaborated indirectly through shared research ecosystems, including NASA-funded studies on aneutronic propulsion and DOE reviews on alternate fusion concepts. Miley's inertial electrostatic confinement devices share conceptual overlaps with CBFRs, such as non-equilibrium beam injections in cylindrical or FRC setups. Bro. We are looking at a cylindrical setup for an FRC in the MH370 videos. Both contributed to advanced beyond deuterium tritium fuels. Both contributed to aneutronic fuels, with Miley focusing on propulsion adaptations and Rostocker on reactor feasibility. Wow, this is already crazy. Chad, do you think it could get crazier? Is there any way this could suddenly take an absolutely insane turn? Hold on to your butts, chat. Next question. In my mind, I thought, wait a minute. Ion beam injectors? I've been researching fusion for the last 2 years. And when you tell me ion beam injectors, the only thing I can think in my head is Trialpha Energy. Trialpha Energy just last year released a scientific paper saying they could produce an FRC just with their neutral beam injectors. Meaning they don't even need the plasma balls to shoot and interact. They can just shoot up and spin up an FRC with just neutral beam injectors. And in my head, I'm going, this has got to be related to this. How can this not be related? I mean, they sound like it's the same idea. So I asked Grok. I said, how similar is this to TAE's recent paper about neutral beam injectors to maintain an FRC? It says all three emphasize injecting energetic beams into an FRC plasma to achieve fusion without solely relying on high temperature plasmas. Rostocker's concept involves tangentially interjecting mono-energetic ion beams into an FRC, create colliding beams that then drive fusion reactions at tuned energies, exploiting resonances for efficiency. Miley's highlights this mono-energetic colliding beams approach. TAE's paper directly builds on this by using neutral beam injectors. So I'm about to explain to you the difference between an ion beam injector and a neutral beam injector. A neutral beam injector is the more advanced version. Do you want to know why? Here it says it right here. Neutral hydrogen atoms are injected at an angle and they're ionized in the plasma to become fast ions that provide toroidally directed current drive, heating, and stability. I think we need to go down 1 second. Read this paragraph. Key relations and historical ties. Norman Rostocker, lead author of the 2003 paper, co-founded Trialpha Energy. What? Grok, how were you not leading? How is that not in the previous response? You kind of forgot to tell me that the guy fucking co-founded Trialpha Energy. The company that Trump just bought, the company I just invested $50,000 in, this guy that wrote the paper about the neutral beam injectors creating the non-equilibrium plasma, he co-founded Trialpha Energy. This is crazier than John Slow being the co-founder of helium fusion. He's the one that co-founded Trialpha Energy to commercialize his exact science. The Norman device is named after him. Their fusion reactor is named after him, chat. And the 2025 paper explicitly references his colliding beam ideas for FRC confinement and current drive. While TAE used neutral beam injectors rather than directed ion beams, it effectively realizes the colliding beam dynamics by trapping and directing the ions in the FRC. This addresses the practical challenges in his theories. Because the problem is, if you try to inject a charged particle, a non-neutral particle, it will interact with the magnetic field. So you need to inject a neutral particle so that it can go right past the magnetic field, then get ionized and turned into a plasma, and then the particles will follow the magnetic field. So quite literally, the neutral beam injection is an advanced version of the exact same paper and the exact same concept. Holy shit, these motherfuckers know. These motherfuckers know. They've known about cold fusion, and we hit a bullseye. Hit the bullseye. You think it's random Trump just bought this company? You think it's random this company just decided to bypass the IPO process and get bought out by the president of the United States instead? Just completely bypassing all scrutiny, all research into their books and their background? By the way, Chad, there was nothing suspicious about the deal. Nobody should worry about that deal. I've looked into it, totally above board, all legal, all nothing. Yeah, no bias here on my part, obviously. Holy crap, chat. This just had me reeling. So what we can say now, let me go back to these. Let's go back and I want to read some of these similarities to you, and then I'll give you my overall views here. So we talked about the resonancing. You want to avoid the Maxwellian distributions to reduce the losses, aka Bremslung radiation. This is why Paul Siz said that the Bremslung losses have been solved. This is why Paul Siz said the Bremslung losses have been solved, because the solution is use a non-Maxwellian distribution, use a cold plasma, solves the issue of the losses. Boom, just like that. And enable precise energy tuning. TAE's non-neutral beam injector method achieves similar non-thermal conditions. Beams are trapped in a seed plasma, gradually building density, temperature, and magnetic flux. Something else they found. When they tested this experimentally, they found the confinement times was significantly higher than what they expected. Significantly higher than what the math showed it should be. Meaning that this fusion works even better than their wildest dreams. Roskar calculates efficiencies about 90% efficiency. When I say that this is going to be super efficient, 90% efficiency is essentially unheard of in energy production. Let's see. So we got the historical ties. Miley's presentation, which was influenced by Rostocker, discusses beam methods for space propulsion, leveraging aneutronic fusion's charged products for thrust or power via direct energy conversion. TAE's breakthrough, forming FRCs solely via NVI, eliminating pulsed theta pinch sections, simplifies the designs for space applications too, offering even higher power density, unrestricted diverters for ash removal, and steady state operation. So the other huge thing that the reason why the MH370 videos probably can never be admitted to be real, it's not just they figured out fusion, they're running a steady state system. Those orbs are just floating around. These fusion reactors are like 1/10 of a second or 100th of a second. These fusion reactions are happening. They're not having these things run where it's a ball of plasma running for minutes on end. At least not yet. They will. So those fusion orbs are like several generations of advancements in fusion progress stacked on top of each other. Some of the differences. Rostocker's paper is theoretical versus TAE's work is experimental. So Trialpha Energy has shown that this is legit. And Rostocker assumed direct ion beam injection, but that turned out to be challenging because the magnetic fields repel the charged particles. So Trialpha Energy used neutral beams to bypass that, ionizing post-injection for similar effects. Overall, the similarity is high. TAE's neutral beam injector FRC approach is essentially a matured, experimentally validated version of Rostocker's CBFR, aligning closely with Miley's beam-based aneutronic propulsion version. It advances the field by proving formation without traditional hardware, paving the way for commercial fusion reactors or advanced spacecraft. Wow. You know, when I watched this, when I was reading this, the one thing I kept thinking was Bob Greenier just had to take it one step further. It's not quite enough to just say exotic vacuum objects, you know, charge clusters. You got to take it to the next step, and you got to show exactly what it is. And in fairness to him, I don't know that that's possible without something like the MH370 videos. The MH370 videos, we have reverse engineered them to find the technology by following the X-rays, following the geometry of the plasma orbs and the shape of them to figure out how they align with fusion reactors. And that has led to the point now where I would say almost 100% sure that we know what we're looking at least to an extremely accurate degree, what those plasma orbs represent. They represent aneutronic fusion reactors. They are particle accelerators, like CERN. Yes, particle accelerators. They are a non-equilibrium cold plasma. So they are running these fusion reactors in non-equilibrium conditions. And that improves the efficiency significantly because it makes all the ions the same temperature. And you can imagine there's like a bubble in the middle where all these ions are the same temperature and you're getting extremely efficient fusion reactions happening. Or you can imagine beams of ions overlapping and stacking on top of each other to fuse together like waves. It's another way you could imagine it. Now, one of the videos I wanted to see if I have here, because I know David Kirkley spoke about this. Let's see if I can find one. We're going to play a random one here. We'll see if we get it.
Mechanical limit where they just could not build it anymore. And so those pioneers went in a different direction. And they started down the laser inertial path of saying like, okay, well, we can't do these electromagnetic pinches. But we now have this new thing has invented the laser, which turns on in a nanosecond. It's
holy shit, chat. David Kirkley must be terrified of me, chat. This man must be terrified of me, chat. I've got video clips of this guy talking about running their field reverse configuration in non-equilibrium configurations. And he has to know everything we just talked about. He has to know all of this. So the question is this: does David Kirkley know that we've got controlled thermonuclear fusion? Does he know that we can do this at extremely high efficiency? I think he knows. What game are all of these people playing? How many people really know that we've already solved this? This isn't even the clip that's the most damning one, but let's keep playing this.
fast. It's interesting. Let's go down that path. And it's not, you have to fast forward a couple of decades to researchers found with some of these theta pinches, when they were operated in a very specific way, something else happened, something new happened. And that these plasmas, where before they squeezed them very hard, and just like squeezing a tube of toothpaste, they squirted out the ends. Now it didn't squirt out the ends. It actually pushed back. It stayed confined. It stayed trapped inside that linear topology. Even though the ends were open, the plasma didn't leave. And so there was a large amount of programs of like, what is happening here? This is an accidental discovery in plasma physics that something new is happening. And what we discovered is we now call the field reverse configuration.
Holy shit. And what they discovered was that plasma produces its own electromagnetic fields, which means it has its own natural stability. Its own natural stability in geometry that improves confinement beyond what is classically predicted. And this is why people start going down the FRC approach. But now what we learned is there's something even deeper than that. They knew something even more than that. What they knew is that controlled fusion at lower temperatures or in a controlled situation, meaning you have your lasers that are just shooting the beams at the exact temperatures you want, that is possible. And that is something I've watched. I don't even know how many videos about fusion, and I don't ever see that get mentioned. But it's just so simple. Use a laser to inject the ions, inject the particles at the temperatures that you want, and have them naturally come together using electrostatic or inertial confinement or magneto-inertial forces. Absolutely incredible. Let me see what I got here. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Continuous operation. Great. I think I hit the right things there. Okay, let's talk. Let's change topics here. Now, I have spoken with Michael Herrera. If you want to understand why are they hiding this? What is the big picture for hiding this technology, hiding this energy production? How does this connect to aliens and UFOs? Then watch the next Hard Truths podcast with Mike Herrera. It's going to be either dropping on Saturday or Sunday. Keep an eye out for that. But we dig into all of that, and we dig into, why are they covering it up? What are the implications? What is the morality that's involved in this as well? So I'm not going to dig too much into that tonight. Instead, I want to touch on another topic tonight, which is Major General McCasland. Major General McCasland disappeared, I think on Friday, gone MIA. The FBI is now involved in trying to find him. He is the former commander of the Air Force Research Labs. We did a deep dive on him on Monday and into the research that he's done. Talks about the Aronoff-Bohm effect, quantum sensing technologies. The guy clearly knows about the plasma orbs, clearly knows about teleportation. Who found this video? Crap. I think it was Stochastic Scribe. So Stochastic Scribe found this YouTube video of Major General McCasland from the AIAA 51st Aerospace Science Meeting in 2013 while he was still the commander of the Air Force Research Labs. And there is some relevant things in this video related to the topic of cold fusion, related to fusion propulsion in general. Not necessarily overtly, because I'm pretty sure this is super, super classified. But there are some concepts that if we look at them, we can see the overlap. So I want to play a few minutes of this video. Let's go straight to 25 minutes into this thing. Have you guys watch this with me. Here we go. So there's the missing man himself. Now, if you want to know what is my opinion on what happened to him, there are rumors going back and forth that either has dementia or the dementia is misinformation or what have you. I don't know. What I do know is it's not normal for somebody to leave their cell phone in their home and go out on a walk and just disappear. That reminded me. No. And supposedly that's what he did. He left his cell phone at home, he went out, and he disappeared. Pretty damn odd. So let's listen to this guy. Doesn't seem like a guy that had dementia 10 years ago, but I guess a lot can change.
We have to lead in our Air Force because we convince ourselves that nobody else will. Other important investments in this area of propulsion and aerospace systems are the propulsive technology for hypersonic flight. You see in the image in the upper left, the X-51. We've flown 3 of those. We've learned something new from each one. We've got 1 more to fly, and we plan to fly it in April to milk what we can out of that set of test assets. This has been the very first successful hypersonic scramjet that burns hydrocarbon fuels. You see in the middle some interesting research, cartoon and diagram.
The first hypersonic scramjet that burns hydrocarbon fuels. What does that mean? So when I hear this, he's talking about scramjet engines. Scramjet engines would be the evolution they would do either right before or what they would incorporate into their fusion design. So when we talk about where was the fusion solved, the fusion was figured out first in hypersonics because these craft are moving so fast that they're achieving the natural conditions for fusion in the engine. And then presumably what happened is people are going, well, wait a minute. Our engines are already approaching these crazy levels. And we're already seeing some of the same challenges and approaching some of the same challenges that fusion reactors are happening. Let's just incorporate the 2 concepts together. Just like that.
Interesting research we're doing about energy efficiency, formation flying, mobility airplanes. In some remarkable tests out at Edwards, we demonstrated that we could, in fact, reduce fuel flow by as much as 8 to 11% for those airplanes in trail and the climbing sides of those vortices. And we could also do that with formation flying geometry that was within the capacity of the existing autopilot in the C-17. All of this aimed at.
So he also says something about geometries there within using these like geometries in autopilot that are already within these craft. One of the aspects of the videos is that the drones are using some sort of inertial guidance system, like a autopilot kind of system, right? It must be pretty advanced too. I mean, they're able to navigate in 3 dimensions pretty effortlessly.
Research in reducing the demand for fuel. And I talked a little bit about the high-speed strike weapons program cartooned over there on the right. It largely a propulsion investment that seeks to bring the risk down for long-range hypersonic propulsion.
Did you hear that? He says that last one there is largely a propulsion investment for long-range craft. What kind of fuel would you use for a propulsion investment to a long-range craft? Could be fusion. I don't think you would say fusion, but you might allude to it.
This is a program that we're just beginning to work out with industry what we want to field and do. Let's keep moving here. Our next portfolio in the space and the nuclear business. These are largely spread around 3 main themes here. Access. We've got some major investments in reducing the cost of access to space, in payload technologies, things that create better choices for both the NRO and the Air Force's. Our research is investing in the production, the design, the engineering codes for oxygen-rich rocket engines in an attempt to lay the tech base for a potential engine program for the ELV.
So you can see right on the screen here, it says space and nuclear. So you can imagine I listen in like a hawk to this part.
Shifting back into pervasive spacecraft component technology, we have got major bets placed in advanced infrared sensing, hypertemporal methods that offer some lucrative ability.
Did he just say advanced infrared sensing? Pretty sure I just heard him say advanced infrared sensing. That makes me think about Gorgon Stare, makes me think about that other Litanium G4 pod that was integrated into the MQ-9 Reaper. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, guys, this guy, there's no way. The problem is you realize this guy knows about too many technologies to not be able to know the MH370 videos are real. So this is one where I guarantee you this guy knows. I guarantee you show this guy the MH370 videos, he knows exactly what's going on in those videos. He knows exactly what's going on.
To see engine ignitions, rocket engine ignitions below the clouds, exploiting temporal signatures of infrared radiation that actually gets through clouds in a way that spatial contrast ratios don't. We have got a new growing line of research in space communication. You know, and this is a bit of a shift in past years' investment strategy.
Space communication, you say? Continue.
You know, when I was at Space Vehicle some 10 years ago, it was our deliberate thinking that space communications was a commodity that the Air Force could be a consumer of. I think we've convinced ourselves that in the area of protected communication, that's certainly not turned out to be the case, and we are investing more and looking to be more of a venture capitalist for protected communication, military unit communication than we have been in the past. And so this is an area that I won't call we've got a big...
I think he's alluding to quantum communications here, which use the Aharonov-Bohm effect, just like Hal Puthoff's patent. Hal Puthoff has a quantum communication patent that uses no electromagnetic field, so it's technically invisible, and that would be an advanced communication method that he would be describing here.
Big bet place, but we're putting more chips on the table for our solutions down into the centimeter range at geostationary altitudes, which is just a remarkably lucrative thing for our space community, and it makes
He just said that they guys. Okay, I have to play that part again. People are trying to say we don't have, like, I'm not saying the MH370 videos are satellite video, and I haven't been saying that for a long time now. But there were people out there that were saying, like, our satellite capabilities, the resolution on satellites it's not possible to pick up a certain focal length or whatever. Geostationary satellites are 40,000 kilometers away. To give you some idea of how far away that is, it is 40 times further than our low Earth orbit satellites. The low Earth orbit satellites are zipping around the Earth like this all the time. The geostationary ones are spinning at the same speed that the Earth spins, so they stay in position all the time. 40 times further away. 40 times further away. That's how far away the geostationary satellites are. Let's find out what the resolution is. You ready?
A DARPA LiDAR program, and it's dawned on us that it creates some opportunities for both airborne applications in sensors that can be put in pods and fighter-sized airplanes, and then running it through larger apertures for getting sensing resolutions down into the centimeter range at geostationary altitudes, which is just a remarkably lucrative thing for our...
Bro, what? Centimeter resolutions from geostationary orbit? Now, I'm not going to do the math right here, but that has to be absolutely insane. You can literally read a book from 40,000 kilometers away if that's true. Centimeter resolution from 40,000 kilometers? Holy crap. And you're trying to tell me they don't know where MH370 is? They've got centimeter resolution on geostationary satellites that are monitoring the Earth all the time. And you think that a plane disappeared without any trace in 2014, a year after this presentation? A year after this presentation. You think the military doesn't know where MH370 went? Are you paying attention?
Space community, and it makes it takes advantage of some DARPA investments in coherent down conversion and fundamental invention that they underwrote a few years ago. I only mentioned the nuclear enterprise just in passing. Largely, our bet there is in research on the surveillance of solid rocket motor technology. Those of you who are familiar with how the Minuteman III program knows.
Solid. He just said our interest in nuclear technology is solid rocket motor technology. The only thing I can think of is the literal presentation that I just showed you guys from George Miley that goes over fission and fusion electric propulsion, nuclear electric propulsion. I don't know which version he's talking about here, but that has to be one of those versions, has to be what he's talking about here. It's either fission or fusion when you're talking about nuclear propulsion, and it's always electric. Nuclear electric propulsion. Wow.
Has been run or witting that we re-engineered almost the entirety of the Minuteman III program, reported its motors, bought a new guidance computer, put new warheads on it, setting up the ICBM force for safe and secure nuclear deterrence past 2030.
He just said we redid the whole Minuteman III program. Supposedly the Minuteman III programs are nuclear deterrence strategy. And he just said we took the old missiles, we gave them new inertial guidance systems. We basically upgraded all of their autopilot systems on all the missiles. Do the missiles look like plasma orbs flying around? I'm sorry, I just have to ask. I mean, I don't know if I'm right or wrong here. I really don't. But I want someone to answer this question for me. Someone who's like in the Air Force or Air Force. Am I looking at Minuteman III or hypersonic intercept, or what do you call these things? What do you call these things? Because I have a feeling they are literally one of these things these people are talking about in these videos. I just don't know which one it is. But in theory, it could be any of them. It could also just be a completely unregistered program. But the fact that they're so pristine, like those orbs are just beautiful. Look at how spherical those orbs are. It's not like janky Iran plasma orbs or some shit like that. It's not knockoff Chinese off-brand plasma orbs. Someone put a lot of work into those orbs. And I imagine they want to get some credit. So I imagine there is an official name for these things. An official program that they have. I just don't know which one it is. But there you just heard a former commander of the Air Force Research Lab say that they upgraded all the inertial guidance systems in our nuclear deterrence strategy so they would be up to speed until 2030. And I can only imagine that these fusion orbs are being classified as nuclear weapons at a minimum if they are not like literally our nuclear weapons, which they could be. Nobody's ever seen our nuclear weapons, so we don't know. We have no idea. So, guys, summing it all up tonight, what did we learn? Even if America's the bad guy, you kind of got to decide what side you're on right now. My opinion, chat, if you have the option, you should probably be on the side of the people with the discombobulators and the teleportation and the plasma orbs. Seems like that side's probably going to win. But ultimately, I leave that choice up to you. But I will note that we're watching for the people that are pushing anti-American, Iranian propaganda and all this other crap on social media. And just because I expose my country doing an evil thing like MH370 doesn't mean I don't love my country. I don't see my government as this monolithic evil entity. I see it as run by people. And if we can get those shitty people out, maybe we can be better. When it comes to cold fusion, what's the secret? The secret to cold fusion is not room temperature. The secret to cold fusion is non-Maxwellian distribution. The secret to cold fusion is using a laser to make sure every ion is the same temperature. That way, we don't have to worry about random chance fusion. Random chance fusion is for idiots. It's for Redditors. Redditors probably love that shit. Oh, look, the fusion accidentally happened again. Yay! No. The smart people are making the fusion happen. We're forcing the things to come together. And how are we doing that? Because we're achieving certain resonance conditions where the fusion chance just skyrockets. Just like with quantum tunneling. In fact, it is quantum tunneling. So the answer to cold fusion all along was that, yes, it's real, but they've been pushing disinformation about cold fusion so that it'd be easier to debunk. They say, no, fusion requires these huge energy levels, this huge temperature. And we say it doesn't require that temperature. It does require the energy levels. We can achieve the energy levels without a vast, overwhelming temperature, without an uncontrolled sun. We instead will have a controlled thermonuclear fusion. So that's why we're not going to call it cold fusion anymore. You say, Ashton, what? You just went through all that effort to debunk cold fusion. And now we're not even going to call it cold fusion anymore? Yes, because cold fusion is stupid. Sounds lame. You know what sounds cool? Cool fusion. Why is it cool fusion? Because it's not about temperature. Because we're smarter than the average bear. Because we're not out there just going, we're going to randomly make this get really hot. No. Because we're cool as shit and we're using the dopest fuels. We're producing directed energy conversion. We're producing electricity directly instead of doing the steam cycle. It's cool in every single respect. And our plasma reactor doesn't even get as hot as the sun. You can actually be near. You can have it in your house. It's not going to destroy or burn your house to the ground. So it's cool fusion. Aneutronic fusion disclosure 2026 chat. This is the tip of the spear. Thank you guys for being here with me tonight. Let's go to the super chats. Woo! Woke Societies with the raid. Everybody who raided from Woke Societies, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for being here. Woke Societies, friend of the show. Appreciate you. John Glock, thank you for being here, man. Appreciate you. Hope you learned something tonight. He says, magnificent intro. Thank you. Sorry I can't donate for a while. Don't even worry about it. I don't even demand donations or anything like that. I do this out of the good of my heart. Like I said, this is a detriment to me. I shouldn't even be revealing this. I shouldn't even be hurting my own country. I shouldn't even be putting myself out there for people to destroy my career and my credibility in the future. I don't do this for the money. I do this because I want the truth for this one thing. And it's the most impossible, unbelievable thing in the whole world. That the United States used a wormhole weapon on MH370. I want one true thing in this world, and I want it to be the most unbelievable shit that there ever was. So that everybody on this planet, for the rest of their natural lives, is going to second guess everything. That's what I want to have happen. Let's go to those super chats, and thank you so much in Rumble. I see you, Not Yoda and Double M's and we're Laughing Cat hanging out. Dobby with a throbby, my boy, says, all I want was death to America, but all I got was death from America. Alatoya, Ali Kalameni, final words probably. I thought he probably didn't see that coming. A lot of these guys, like I said on Monday, the CIA had to brainwash all of us. Some of these people truly believe that Iran is going to beat America. This guy probably thought he was invincible. He probably thought he was untouchable until that rocket came flying onto his house and blew it to pieces. Sad, but true. And this is why I tell people is like, there's the difference between the propaganda and then the harsh reality of the world. And the reality of this world is that there is going to always be somebody on top, and we should just be happy that it's us being America. Ooh, a new person, Pazion Passion to let's try this too. Gives the donation with the lovey face and the prayer emoji. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Timothy Foster. Grok states data centers which will be powered by 0-point energy use a huge amount of water for the cooling system. Furthermore, some water pollution as well. Can't ZPE address this? Well, I think you just heard the answer today. Is that this system using mono-energetic laser beams to produce your fusion bypasses the problem of cooling. In fact, it also uses an evaporative cooling method, as was described, to make the electrons lose energy. So there shouldn't be this huge amount of excess heat. So you might not need any water for cooling, but at a minimum, you're not going to need much. Now, another thing that came out today was that Donald Trump said that all these new data centers will be mandated that they produce their own power. And he said this will reduce the energy cost. Well, I took economics in school, and my answer is, how is that going to work? You're telling me these data centers are going to produce more energy than they need just for the good of their hearts? So I'm going to make a data center. I need 100 megawatts of energy. So I'm going to produce 200 megawatts of energy and then sell it to consumers for a loss? Why would I do that? Doesn't make any sense. If I'm going to produce my own energy, I'm just going to produce my own and power my own stuff, and that's it. The only way it makes sense for this to reduce energy costs for everybody else is if these data centers are going to be run off of fusion. If they're going to be run off of a new energy source that's more efficient than the ones we're using on the grid right now. That would explain why the energy costs would go down for everybody else. And it also is extremely dystopian, if you ask me, because now the AI data center companies are now also the energy companies as well, because they're also selling us our energy in the civilian side. So now they own every aspect of our existence. Something to consider. Moose, man, you guys got some hard names. Moose Goofy, I'm going to say. Huge donation. Thank you for that big dono. Love hearing the live physics lectures from Dr. Four Orbs. I've been away for a while, but wondering if you have any plans on putting all this paper links onto dedicated website. Do you need any assistance? I have been rolling around the idea now. I think we're ready to make some videos. Obviously, I've been doing mostly live streams. I enjoy the live stream content. It's natural to me. I'm not an artist. I'm not really a video maker or anything like that. But I think we now have enough facts where we can make videos and they won't become immediately out of date. And I'm thinking that the first thing I want to do is MH370. It's not going to be able to be one video, and I know that because the evidence review streams are going on like 3 hours now. So it's a huge amount of content. If you have recommendations or thoughts, feel free to put them in the comments. Feel free to post them anywhere on my YouTube channel or join the Discord. Put them in there as well. We'll be thinking about it in the time to come. But now I think we found out enough incriminating information and have enough evidence to support the conclusions that are being made that we can produce videos that would be high quality enough that they'll be entertaining and valuable for people. Dreadmax says, I love this channel and the community. It just keeps on giving. What's really crazy is that none of this is scripted and that we keep finding these incredible connections that I could never have imagined. Trialpha Energy. The founder is directly connected to George Miley working on this aneutronic fusion propulsion. And I had speculated there must be a connection to this aneutronic fusion propulsion they were working on in the 90s and early 2000s. And these fusion companies, I just didn't realize it was so direct. I mean, wow. If I'm you guys, I'm avoiding Commonwealth because they're doing tokamak fusion. And I'm going straight for Helion and Trialpha Energy. Bar T Welding, gifting 420. YOLO, no swag. No scope. He says, I told you so, Ashton Forbes. Cold fusion was real. And we found out on Monday that Jeffrey Epstein helped cover up cold fusion. He was literally lobbying for them to kill cold fusion. And now we know that it was real and that the secret, possibly the restricted data, the nuclear secrets, is the resonance condition. Because if there's a resonance condition where all of a sudden fusion probability skyrockets, that could be used in a bomb. In fact, that same resonance condition would be used in a bomb. Because at that resonance condition, your bomb just takes off. And that has to be what they're utilizing, in my opinion, in the videos. Now, I would say I'm back on the fence about, does that have to be a fusion bomb they used on the plane with lithium inside the plane? Or like Sal said, could it be possible that the orbs can produce this wormhole without any other catalyst? I'm personally still leaning towards fusion bomb, but I'm open to any answer there. Lastly, XL Squeeze says, Ash, you got to use Grok to drop the UTH EPR plus Yuan. I saw somebody showing this. But the basic idea is connecting these theories together. This idea of ER equals EPR, connecting it to Yuan theory. I don't think we really even need to do all that. I think, as you'll see when you watch the discussion between Mike Herrera and myself, no one individual is going to get credit for disclosure, and no one individual is going to get credit for unification. It's just going to be like, we're in a situation where, because they hid it for so long, multiple people were independently able to solve it, and therefore no one really deserves the independent credit for it. So it's not going to be a situation where we look at this one person and go, this was the person that solved everything. We're going to look back at it and we're going to go, it was a culmination of research that led to the government putting it all together and then hiding it from the rest of us for national security. And then we got to know about it when finally it either got leaked and exposed, or when our adversaries found out about it, and now we're allowed. That's it for tonight, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Hope you enjoyed the chat and the science. And feel free to join our Discord for more information and hanging out. And we'll be back on Friday, digging into more felony physics, talking more about free energy, fusion, Aneutronic, propulsion, aliens, conspiracies, missing commanders of the Air Force research labs, wormholes, and everything else under the sun. Love you. I'm H37X. Take it out. Later, guys. Awkward.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Ground forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's